The throne room of the Velkari High Emperor was cold. It was always cold. Ciravel had spent 12 years in this palace, and she had never once felt warm. She knelt on the polished stone floor, her head bowed, her hands folded in front of her. Around her stood the nobles of the court, their tall violet forms wrapped in silk and jewels. None of them looked at her. She had become invisible long ago. The High Emperor sat on his throne of black crystal. His voice echoed through the chamber, like the sound of breaking ice. Ciravel of House Tisari, you have failed in your sacred duty. 12 years of marriage, and you have produced no heir. You are barren. You are worthless. She did not flinch. She had known this day would come. The physicians had told her years ago that her body would never carry a child. Among the Velkari, a queen who could not produce heirs was worth less than the servants who cleaned the floors. However, the emperor continued, you may still serve the empire in one final way. The humans have requested a diplomatic exchange. They are a primitive species, barely capable of space travel, but they control several resource-rich systems. We will give them a gift. We will give them you. A murmur ran through the court. Ciravel felt something break inside her chest, but she kept her face still. She had learned long ago to show nothing. 2 guards came forward with chains. They were ceremonial chains, made of silver and decorated with gems, but they were chains nonetheless. Ciravel stood and allowed them to bind her wrists. She walked out of the throne room with her head held high, because that was the only thing she had left. 3 weeks later, she stood in the cargo bay of a Velkari transport ship, waiting to be delivered to her new owners. The humans had sent a vessel to collect her. It was a small ship, ugly by Velkari standards, with the words Starward Bound painted on its hull. The airlock opened, and the humans entered. Ciravel had seen pictures of humans before, but she was not prepared for how strange they looked in person. They were short and soft, with pale or brown skin and hair in various colors. Their faces moved constantly, showing emotion in ways that the Velkari considered vulgar. The man in front wore a simple uniform with a symbol on his chest. He had brown hair cut short, and eyes the color of Earth's sky. When he saw Ciravel standing in chains, his face changed. His eyes widened. His mouth opened slightly. He looked horrified. "What the hell is this?" he said. The Velkari ambassador stepped forward. "Captain Nathan Cole, I present to you a gift from the High Emperor. This is Ciravel, former queen of House Tisari. She is now the property of Earth and its people." Nathan Cole stared at Ciravel. Then he stared at the ambassador. Then he looked back at Ciravel. "She's in chains," he said. "Yes, she is a gift, a possession. You may do with her as you wish." Something happened in Nathan Cole's eyes. The horror turned to anger. Ciravel recognized that expression. She had seen it on soldiers before battle. But this human directed his anger not at her, but at the ambassador. "Get those chains off her," Nathan said. "Now." The ambassador frowned. "Captain, I do not think you understand. She belongs to you. The chains are merely ceremonial. You may remove them yourself if you prefer." Nathan walked toward Ciravel. She forced herself not to step back. She was done running. Whatever these humans did to her, she would face it. But Nathan did not hurt her. He knelt down in front of her and looked at the chains around her wrists. His hands were gentle as he searched for the mechanism that held them closed. He found it, pressed it, and the chains fell to the floor with a clatter that echoed through the cargo bay. "There," he said quietly. "That's better." Ciravel looked down at him, confused. No one had ever knelt before her, not even when she was queen. Nathan stood up. "I'm Captain Nathan Cole," he said. "Welcome aboard the Starward Bound. I don't know what they told you, but you're not property here. You're a guest. We'll figure out the rest together." He turned to one of the other humans, a woman with dark skin and kind eyes. "Patricia, Can you take her to the medical bay? Make sure she's healthy, get her whatever she needs." The woman nodded. "Of course, Captain." She approached Ciravel with a warm smile. "Hi there. I'm Patricia Blake, the ship's doctor. Want to come with me? I promise I don't bite." Ciravel did not know what to say. She followed Patricia in silence, her mind struggling to understand what had just happened. The medical bay was small, but clean. Patricia helped Ciravel sit on an examination table, and began running scans with various devices. She talked the whole time, explaining what each device did, asking if Ciravel was comfortable, offering her water and food. "You must be exhausted," Patricia said. "Long trip from Valkyrie space. Don't worry, we'll get you set up with proper quarters. Good bed, private bathroom, the works." "Why?" Ciravel finally asked. Her voice was rough from disuse. Patricia looked at her. "Why what, honey? Why are you being kind to me? I am worthless. I am barren. I could not give my husband an heir, so I was thrown away. I have no value." Patricia's face went through several expressions that Ciravel could not read. Finally, the doctor set down her scanner and took Ciravel's hands in her own. "I don't care what those purple idiots told you. You're a person. You have value just because you exist. That's how we see things here." Ciravel felt tears burning in her eyes. She had not cried in years. Valkyrie did not cry. "And about that barren thing," Patricia continued, picking up her scanner again, "I'm seeing something interesting here. Mind if I run a few more tests?" Ciravel nodded, not trusting her voice. An hour later, Patricia sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. "Well," she said, "I've got good news and weird news. The weird news is that you have a rare genetic condition that affects your reproductive system. It's treatable, but it requires a specific kind of gene therapy." "Treatable?" Ciravel whispered. "That's the good news. This is actually pretty routine stuff for human medicine. I don't know why Valkyrie doctors didn't catch it, but I can start treatment whenever you're ready." "You're not barren, Ciravel. You never were. You just needed someone to actually help you." Ciravel sat very still. The cold that had lived inside her for so many years began very slowly to melt. Life on the Starward Bound was nothing like Ciravel had expected. She had prepared herself for cruelty, or at best, cold indifference. Instead, she found herself surrounded by 43 humans who seemed determined to make her feel welcome. It was confusing. It was overwhelming. It was wonderful. Her quarters were small by Valkyrie standards, but they were hers alone. Nathan had given her a room equal to his own, with a real bed, a private bathroom, and a window that showed the stars. The first night, she lay awake for hours, unable to believe that no one would come to take it away from her. The crew treated her like a person. They asked her name and practiced pronouncing it correctly. They invited her to meals in the common room. They asked questions about her life, her culture, her thoughts, and they actually listened to her answers. Danny Reyes was the ship's chief engineer. He was a short man with messy black hair and hands that were always stained with engine grease. He talked constantly about engines and machines and a dozen other things that Ciravel did not understand. But he always smiled when he saw her, and he brought her strange human foods to try. "This is called a burrito," he said one day, placing a wrapped object in front of her. "My grandmother's recipe. Well, sort of. I had to make some changes, because we don't have all the ingredients in space. But it's still good. Try it." Ciravel bit into the burrito. Flavors exploded across her tongue, warm and rich and unlike anything she had ever tasted. Her eyes widened. Danny laughed. "I knew you'd like it. Tomorrow I'll make you tacos." Linda Cho was the ship's navigator. She was tall and quiet, with long black hair that she kept in a braid. She moved through the ship like water, smooth and graceful. She was the one who discovered that Ciravel loved poetry. "The Valkyrie have poems?" Linda asked one evening in the common room. Yes, Ciravel said. Long epics about war and honor and the founding of great houses. I used to read them when I was young. Do you have a favorite? Ciravel thought for a moment. Then she began to recite, translating the words into human speech as she went. The poem was about a warrior who traveled across the stars to find her lost love. It was beautiful and sad, and when Ciravel finished, she saw that Linda had tears in her eyes. That was amazing, Linda said. You should write it down. We could put it in the ship's library. Ciravel did not know how to respond. Among the Valkyrie, poetry was for nobles. The idea that a human would want to preserve her words was strange and wonderful. Patricia began the gene therapy 2 weeks after Ciravel's arrival. The treatment was painless, just a series of injections and some pills that Ciravel had to take each day. Patricia explained everything in simple terms, never making Ciravel feel stupid for not understanding. Your body just needs a little help, Patricia said. That's all this is, a little help. Nathan visited Ciravel every evening. At first, she was nervous around him. He was the captain, the leader, the one with power. But Nathan never used that power to hurt her. He brought a game called chess and taught her how to play. Ciravel was terrible at chess. She could not see the patterns, could not predict what Nathan would do. She lost every game, often within minutes. But Nathan never mocked her. He never grew impatient. He simply smiled and explained what she might try differently next time. Failure is how we learn, he said. Every loss teaches you something. That's the human way. Among her people, failure was permanent. It marked you. It defined you. But humans saw failure as a step on a path, not the end of the road. 3 months into her journey, the Starward Bound was attacked. They were near the frontier, in a region of space where pirates and raiders hunted easy prey. A ship appeared on their sensors, weapons hot, demanding that they surrender their cargo. Nathan refused. The battle was fast and brutal. Ciravel watched from the medical bay as the ship shook with weapons fire. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Through the window, she saw flashes of light as energy beams cut through space. Then Danny's voice came over the intercom. Hull breach in Section 7. We've got wounded. Ciravel followed Patricia as the doctor ran toward the damage. They found Danny lying on the floor, his chest smoking from a plasma burn. Linda was kneeling beside him, pressing her hands against the wound. He pushed me out of the way, Linda said, her voice shaking. The beam was going to hit me, and he pushed me. Patricia went to work immediately, pulling out medical supplies and barking orders. Ciravel helped as best she could, holding equipment and passing bandages. Danny's face was pale, his breathing shallow. Nathan arrived minutes later. When he saw Danny on the floor, something broke in his face. He fell to his knees beside his friend, and tears began to stream down his cheeks. Ciravel had never seen a Valkyrie weep for another person. Tears were weakness. Caring was weakness. But Nathan wept openly, without shame, his hand gripping Danny's. Stay with me, buddy, Nathan said. That's an order. Patricia worked through the night. By morning, Danny was stable. He would need weeks of recovery, but he would live. Ciravel sat alone in her quarters, thinking about what she had seen. She thought about Danny pushing Linda out of the way. She thought about Nathan weeping. She thought about the way the entire crew had come together, risking their lives for each other. Among the Valkyrie, power was everything. The strong survived. The weak were discarded. But humans did not see the world this way. They fought for each other. They wept for each other. They loved each other in ways that Ciravel had never known were possible. She realized with a start that she did not want to leave this ship. She did not want to go back to the cold silence of Valkyrie space. She wanted to stay here, among these strange, loud, emotional creatures, who had shown her more kindness in 3 months than she had received in her entire life. For the first time since she was a child, Ciravel felt something like hope. Patricia came to see her the next morning. The doctor looked tired but happy. "Danny's going to be fine," Patricia said. "And I have some other news." She sat down next to Ciravel and took her hand. "The treatment is working. Your body is responding exactly the way we hoped. In a few more months, you should be fully healthy." Ciravel looked at the doctor, who had become her friend. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Patricia smiled. "That's what humans do. We take care of each other." 6 months had passed since Ciravel came aboard the Starward Bound. 6 months of learning, growing, and healing. The ship had become her home. The crew had become her family. She was sitting in the medical bay when Patricia gave her the news. "The tests are confirmed," Patricia said. Her voice was soft, almost reverent. "Ciravel, you're pregnant." For a long moment, Ciravel did not move. She could not move. The words echoed in her mind, impossible and beautiful and terrifying all at once. "Pregnant," she whispered. "About 8 weeks along. Everything looks healthy. The baby is developing normally." Ciravel felt tears running down her face. She had not known she was crying until she felt the wetness on her cheeks. Her whole body was shaking. 12 years. 12 years of trying. 12 years of failure and shame, and being told that she was broken, worthless, empty. And now, after everything, after being thrown away like garbage, she was carrying a child. "I need to sit down," Ciravel said. Then she realized she was already sitting down, and she laughed, a strange, broken sound that turned into a sob. Patricia held her while she cried. The doctor said nothing, just rubbed her back and let her feel whatever she needed to feel. Nathan came to see her an hour later. Patricia had told him the news. He stood in the doorway of the medical bay, looking uncertain, which was strange. Nathan never looked uncertain. "Hey," he said quietly, "can I come in?" Ciravel nodded. Nathan walked over and sat down next to her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "How are you feeling?" Nathan asked. "I do not know," Ciravel admitted. "Happy, scared, confused, everything at once." Nathan nodded slowly. "That makes sense. This is a big thing. I want you to know that whatever you decide to do, however you want to handle this, we'll support you. All of us. This is your choice, Ciravel, no one else's." Ciravel looked at him. In the Valkyrie Empire, a pregnancy belonged to the bloodline, not the mother. The family elders would decide everything. The mother's wishes were irrelevant. But Nathan was telling her that she had a choice. She could decide her own future. "I want to keep the baby," Ciravel said. "I want to raise her here, on this ship with all of you." Nathan smiled. It was a warm smile, full of genuine happiness. "Then that's what we'll do." The months that followed were some of the best of Ciravel's life. Danny, now fully recovered from his wound, decided to build a crib. He spent weeks in the engineering bay, cutting and shaping metal, cursing at his mistakes, and starting over when things went wrong. The final result was beautiful. A small bed decorated with stars and moons, strong enough to last for years. "Every kid needs a good bed," Danny said, as he presented it to Ciravel. "I made the mattress extra soft." Linda learned to knit specifically so she could make baby clothes. She was terrible at first, producing lumpy socks and lopsided hats. But she kept practicing, and by the 7th month, she had created an entire wardrobe of tiny outfits. "I used purple and blue," Linda said, to honor both her heritages. Patricia monitored the pregnancy with obsessive care. She read every medical text she could find about human and Valkyrie biology. She consulted with doctors on Earth, and even reached out to a few Valkyrie scientists who were willing to talk to her. She was determined that nothing would go wrong. Nathan started reading parenting books. Siravel caught him one night in the common room, surrounded by digital tablets, taking notes with a serious expression on his face. "What are you doing?" she asked. Nathan looked up, embarrassed. "Research. I figured if I'm going to help, I should know what I'm doing." He paused. "I also wanted to ask you about Velkari traditions. For children, I mean. We should blend both cultures, right? So the baby knows where she comes from." Siravel sat down next to him. She told him about the Velkari naming ceremonies, about the songs that mothers sang to their babies, about the stories passed down through generations. Nathan listened carefully, asking questions, making sure he understood. "We'll do all of it," he said. "Human traditions and Velkari traditions. She'll have the best of both worlds." The crew threw a party when Siravel reached her 8th month. Patricia called it a baby shower, which confused Siravel until she understood that it had nothing to do with actual showers. Everyone on the ship came. They brought gifts wrapped in colorful paper. They ate cake and played silly games. Danny told jokes that made everyone groan. Linda recited a poem she had written for the occasion. Siravel stood in the middle of it all, surrounded by people who loved her, and felt her heart might burst from happiness. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "All of you. I never knew. I never imagined." "Family," Nathan said simply. "That's what this is." The baby came 3 weeks later. Siravel had been nervous about the birth, but Patricia was calm and confident. The delivery took several hours, but there were no complications. When it was over, Patricia placed a small, warm bundle in Siravel's arms. She had violet skin like her mother, with tiny pointed ears and dark hair. But her eyes were different. They were gray, like storm clouds, like nothing Siravel had ever seen among the Velkari. "Hello, little one," Siravel whispered. Nathan stood beside her bed, looking down at the baby with wonder. "She's perfect," he said. "I have chosen a name," Siravel said. "A human name. I want her to belong to both worlds, but I want the humans who saved us to know how much they mean to me." She looked up at Nathan. "Her name is Maya." Patricia began to cry. She tried to hide it, but everyone saw. "Maya," Nathan repeated. "That's beautiful." Over the next few days, every member of the crew came to meet Maya. They held her carefully, as if she were made of glass. They made funny faces to make her smile. They argued about who she looked like and what her first words would be. Danny looked at the baby and then at Siravel. "You know what this means, right? She's the first human Velkari baby ever born. She's going to be famous." Siravel had not thought about that. She had been so focused on the miracle of Maya's existence that she had not considered what it might mean to the rest of the galaxy. Word began to spread. Messages came from Earth, from human colonies, from scientists who wanted to study this unprecedented birth. Most of the messages were congratulations, but some were not. A message arrived from the Velkari Empire 3 weeks after Maya was born. It was marked with the seal of the High Emperor. Nathan read it first. His face went dark with anger. Then he showed it to Siravel. "The Baron Queen has produced an heir," the message read. "The child carries royal blood. It belongs to the Empire. It will be returned immediately." The cold that she thought had left forever began to creep back into her heart. "No," she said. "They cannot have her." Nathan put his hand on her shoulder. "They won't," he said. "I promise." The Velkari warship arrived at the edge of human territory on a cold Tuesday morning. It was a massive vessel, 3 times the size of the Starward Bound, bristling with weapons that could reduce a planet to ash. Its black hull blocked out the stars like a hole in space. The name painted on its side translated to Divine Judgment. Nathan gathered the crew in the common room. Maya was in Siravel's arms, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger. "Here's the situation," Nathan said. His voice was calm, but Siravel could see the tension in his shoulders. The Valkyrie are demanding that we hand over Siravel and Maya. They say Maya carries royal blood and belongs to the Empire. What did you tell them? Danny asked. I told them no. A murmur went through the crew. Siravel felt her heart squeeze with fear and gratitude. They're sending an ambassador to talk to us, Nathan continued. His name is Korithvel. He'll be here in 6 hours. I want everyone at their stations. We're not giving them anything, but we need to be ready if things go bad. The ambassador arrived exactly on time. He was tall, even for a Valkyrie, with silver-gray skin and cold black eyes. He wore the robes of a high noble and carried himself like a man who had never been refused anything in his life. Nathan met him in the cargo bay. Siravel watched from the observation deck above. Maya held tight against her chest. Captain Cole, Korathvel said. His voice was smooth and polite, like oil spreading over water. I trust you have reconsidered your earlier response. No, Nathan said. My answer is the same. Siravel and Maya are staying with us. The ambassador's eyes narrowed slightly. I do not think you understand the situation, Captain. The child carries the blood of the royal house. By Valkyrie law, she is property of the Empire. You have no right to keep her. Your laws don't apply here, Nathan said. This is human space. Korathvel made a small sound that might have been a laugh. Captain, do you understand what your species is? You are children playing with toys you do not understand. The Valkyrie Empire has existed for 10,000 years. We control 300 star systems. We have more warships than you have planets. He stepped closer to Nathan, looming over the human captain. You have perhaps 24 vessels capable of combat. We could destroy your entire fleet in a single afternoon. This is not a negotiation, Captain. This is a courtesy. Give us the Queen and the child, and we will leave peacefully. Refuse, and we will take them by force. Nathan did not step back. He looked up at the ambassador, and his voice was steady when he spoke. I don't care how many ships you have. I don't care how old your empire is. Siravel is part of my crew. Maya is, well, she's ours now. And humans don't give up their own. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Korathvel turned and walked back to his shuttle. You have 48 hours to reconsider, he said over his shoulder. After that, we will take what is ours. The warship withdrew to the edge of sensor range, but it did not leave. It hung there in space, like a threat, waiting. Nathan sent a message to Earth Command, explaining the situation. The response came within hours. Message received and understood, the Admiral wrote. We are mobilizing every available ship. You are not alone. At first, Siravel did not understand what that meant. The humans had admitted themselves that they had only a handful of warships. What could they possibly do against the Valkyrie fleet? But then the ships started arriving. First came the Earth Defense Fleet, 12 warships jumping into the system one after another. They were smaller than the Valkyrie vessel, but their captains sent messages of support to the starward bound. We heard what happened, one captain said. We're with you. Then came ships from the colonies, mining vessels armed with improvised weapons, cargo haulers that had strapped missile launchers to their hulls, personal yachts crewed by retired military officers who had come out of retirement for this one mission. Then came the volunteers. Across human space, the news had spread. A Valkyrie queen had been thrown away like garbage. Humans had taken her in, healed her, given her a home. Now the Empire wanted to take her back, and her baby too. And humans said no. Civilians organized transport ships. Veterans dug their old uniforms out of storage. Students at military academies demanded permission to join the fleet. The message was the same everywhere. You will not take her. Siravel stood on the bridge of the Starward Bound and watched the ships arrive. There were dozens of them. Then, hundreds. They kept coming, jumping into the system in flashes of light, taking positions around the starward bound like a protective wall. "I don't understand," she whispered. "These people, they don't even know me. Why would they risk their lives?" Nathan stood beside her, his arms crossed over his chest. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "That's reason enough for us." "But the Velkhari have thousands of ships. You cannot win." "Maybe not," Nathan shrugged. "But we're going to try anyway. That's who we are, Siravel. We don't calculate whether we can win before we fight for what's right. We just fight." The Velkhari ambassador sent another message, demanding to know what was happening. The human fleet sent back a single response: "We are here to protect our people." Korathvel's reply was cold with fury. "The Queen is not your people. She is Velkhari." Nathan responded personally. "She's one of us now, and so is Maya. If you want them, you'll have to go through every ship in this fleet. And when you've destroyed us, more will come. And when you've destroyed them, more will come after that. We will never stop fighting for our own." There was no response from the Velkhari ship for several hours. Siravel watched the human fleet arrange itself into battle formations. These people were willing to die for her, not because she was a queen, not because she had power or wealth or anything to offer them. They were willing to die because she was one of them. Among the Velkhari, worth was measured by bloodlines and titles, and the ability to produce heirs. To them, every person had value simply because they existed. Every life was precious. Every member of the family was worth protecting. Siravel felt tears on her face again. She had cried more in the past 6 months than in her entire life before that. Maya stirred in her arms, making small sounds. Siravel looked down at her daughter's face and made a decision. "Nathan," she said, "I want to speak to the ambassador, face to face." Nathan turned to look at her. "Are you sure? It could be dangerous." "I am sure." Siravel straightened her shoulders. "I was a queen once. I know how to talk to power. And I have something to say that the entire empire needs to hear." Nathan studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "Let's set it up." The shuttle docked with the Velkhari warship at exactly noon. Siravel walked through the airlock, alone. She had left Maya with Patricia, who had promised to protect the baby with her life. Nathan had wanted to come with her, but Siravel had refused. "This is something I need to do myself," she had said. "I need to face them as I am, not as your protected pet, but as a queen." The corridors of the divine judgment were cold and dark, just like the palace she had left behind. Guards in ceremonial armor escorted her to the ship's great hall, where Ambassador Korathvel waited. But he was not alone. A massive holographic display filled the center of the room. On it, Siravel could see the face of the High Emperor himself. And around him, appearing in smaller displays, were the faces of nobles from across the empire. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. Korathvel had arranged an audience. The entire Velkhari ruling class was watching. "Queen Siravel," the emperor said. His voice was exactly as cold as she remembered. "You have caused considerable trouble. Return to us now, with the child, and we will be merciful." Siravel stood in the center of the great hall, surrounded by enemies. She thought about the crew of the Starward Bound. She thought about Danny building a crib with his own hands. She thought about Linda knitting socks. She thought about Patricia holding her while she cried. She thought about Nathan weeping over his wounded friend. She thought about humans, these strange, loud, emotional creatures who had taught her what it meant to be valued. And she began to speak. "I was your queen for 12 years, Siravel said. Her voice was calm and clear, amplified by the ship's systems, so that every noble in the empire could hear her. "For 12 years, I served faithfully. I did everything you asked of me. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I obeyed when I wanted to rebel. I made myself small and quiet and invisible, because that was what you demanded. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You were a failure. You could not produce an heir. I was not a failure, Ciravel said. I had a medical condition, a condition that your physicians either could not diagnose or chose not to treat. Do you know how I learned this? A human doctor discovered it in 1 hour. 1 hour, Your Majesty. She looked at me with actual care, and she found what your entire medical establishment missed in 12 years. Murmurs rippled through the assembled nobles. The Emperor's face was like stone. The humans treated me, Ciravel continued. They gave me medicine. They healed my body. And when I became pregnant, they celebrated with me. They built a crib for my daughter. They knitted clothes for her. They threw a party and brought gifts and cried tears of happiness. She stepped forward, her voice rising. Do you understand what I am telling you? These people, whom you call primitives, showed me more kindness in 6 months than I received in my entire life in this empire. They wept for me. They fought for me. They are willing to die for me. The Emperor leaned forward. They are weak. Emotion makes them weak. No, Ciravel said. You are wrong. Their emotions make them strong. Their love makes them powerful. They risk their lives for each other, not because of duty or obligation, but because they care. They see every person as valuable. They do not throw people away when they are no longer useful. She pointed toward the window, where the human fleet was visible as a cloud of tiny lights against the stars. Look at them. Hundreds of ships have come to protect me. Most of those people have never met me. They know nothing about me except that I needed help, and they came anyway. Can you imagine anything like that happening in our empire? Silence filled the great hall. The nobles were watching, their faces unreadable. I was thrown away, Ciravel said, cast out, given as a gift to a species you considered barely civilized. You expected me to suffer and die in obscurity, but instead I found a family. I found people who taught me that I had worth. I found a man who removed my chains with gentle hands and told me I was a guest, not a slave. Her voice broke, but she continued, and now you want to take my daughter. You want to bring her back to this cold, cruel place and raise her the way I was raised, afraid, silent, small. I will not allow it. I am not your queen anymore. I am not your property. I am Ciravel, mother of Maya, member of the crew of the Starward Bound, and I belong to the humans now. The transmission was broadcast across the empire. In the days that followed, Ciravel's words spread like fire through dry grass. Other discarded ones began to speak. Queens who had been thrown away for failing to produce heirs. Lords who had been stripped of their titles for showing weakness. Children who had been abandoned by their families for being different. One by one, they shared their stories. The people of the empire had always believed that their system was just. The strong rose. The weak fell. It was the natural order. But Ciravel's testimony made them question that belief for the first time. How many had been thrown away? How much potential had been wasted? How many lives had been destroyed by a culture that valued power over compassion? The Emperor tried to silence the growing unrest, but it was too late. The cracks in the Empire's foundation were showing, and they would not be easily repaired. Corithvel received new orders 3 days after Ciravel's speech. The divine judgment withdrew from human space without firing a shot. No explanation was given, but everyone understood. The Empire was not ready for a war that might expose more of its ugliness to the galaxy. Ciravel returned to the Starward Bound to find the entire crew waiting for her. Nathan stood at the front, Maya in his arms. The baby was awake, her gray eyes bright and curious. "Welcome back," Nathan said. He was smiling, but there were tears in his eyes. Ciravel took her daughter and held her close. "Take us home," she said. The human fleet escorted them back to Earth. The journey took several weeks, and during that time, messages of support poured in from across human space. People wanted to meet the queen who had stood up to an empire. They wanted to celebrate the baby who represented something new in the galaxy. But Siravel was not interested in fame. She wanted only to live quietly, surrounded by the people she loved. Nathan helped her find a home near the ocean, a small house with a garden where Maya could play. Patricia moved into the house next door. Danny and Linda visited whenever they were on Earth. Years passed. Maya grew from a baby into a child, and from a child into a young woman. She spoke both English and Valkyrie fluently. She learned human history and Valkyrie poetry. She was a bridge between two worlds, living proof that different peoples could come together in love and respect. The Valkyrie Empire continued to change. Slowly, painfully, it began to learn the lessons that Siravel had taught it. There were setbacks and struggles, but the movement that she had started could not be stopped. More and more Valkyrie came to believe that compassion was not weakness. Siravel often sat in her garden in the evenings, watching the sunset over the ocean. Sometimes Nathan sat with her. Two old friends who had been through everything together. "Do you ever regret it?" Nathan asked one night. "Leaving your old life behind?" Siravel thought about the cold throne room where she had knelt in chains. She thought about the years of silence and shame. Then she thought about Danny's burrito, Linda's poems, Patricia's gentle hands, Nathan's chess lessons. "No," she said, "I do not regret anything. I was thrown away, Nathan. I was supposed to be garbage, but you picked me up and showed me that I was precious. You taught me what love means. You gave me a home and a family and a future." She looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and peace. "The Valkyrie sent me to humans as a punishment. They did not understand what they were giving me. They did not know that humans are the greatest treasure in the galaxy." Nathan smiled and squeezed her hand. "And we really don't like bullies." Siravel laughed. It was a warm sound, full of joy. In the house behind them, Maya was singing a song that mixed human and Valkyrie words. The melody drifted out into the evening air, beautiful and strange and new. The forgotten queen, given away like unwanted goods, had found her miracle. And the miracle was not just her daughter. It was not just her healing. It was humanity itself, with all its chaos and noise and overwhelming, wonderful love.